What's going on, YouTube? I wanted to do a overview of my garden for this year. I've got 5 different varieties of heirloom tomatoes going right now. I usually do actually more than this, but I swore to myself I'd stop doing excessive amounts of tomatoes, and I still have this. So I think last year I had 20 something plants, so 5 is a step down for me. But these are selected from my favorites. This one here is Stump of the World. It's a pink heirloom tomato. I want to say it's from, West Virginia. And this one next to it is Earl's Faux. I want to say this one came out of Ohio originally. These two are similar. They're both potato leaf. They both have pink fruit. They both have good production, and I wanted to run them side by side to see which one I like better. In the past, Earl's Faux has been my favorite for production and flavor. They're just delicious. But Stump of the World was really good too. So I've got those two for big pinks. This one next to that, a smaller plant comparatively, is Rahart's Jumbo Red. You can see some of the fruits on there are really cool shapes. They've got these really furled shoulders on them. And these are supposed to be just delicious. I grew this once before, and I grew it in an earth box, which is a self-watering container. I have them over here. My strawberries are in them. And I just couldn't keep them watered evenly enough, and all of them got blossom end rot, and I didn't even get to taste one. So I'm looking forward to these. I'll show you some of the fruit on Earl's Faux. You can see them. They're kind of a classic beefsteak shape. And this one really puts out a lot of fruit for an heirloom especially. And then this is very similar. This is the Stump of the World. And just noticing that Stump of the World is more susceptible to early blight than Earl's Faux. So far, my money's on Earl's Faux. So this one is Virginia Sweets, and it's not ripening yet. These are a very classic beefsteak shape. Kind of, not round or, perfectly shaped as far as like a grocery store tomato, but they have that really great beefsteak shape to them. And these, when they're ripe, are a rainbow of colors, and they're very sweet. So these are for my wife. I don't really love sweet tomatoes. She does, so she'll love these. And this one is Wes. It's a red heart, and it grows beefsteak to ox heart shape. See, here's one that looks like a beefsteak, and this one you can see is more heart shaped. There's one that's very much a heart. So it sort of throws different tomatoes, and I picked one yesterday from down here. It was the first fruit, and it was almost 2 pounds. So this thing is really cranking them out this year. And I've grown this one other time, and I didn't get a whole lot of fruit off it. It wasn't in a great spot in the garden. I wanted to give it another shot. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully they're good, but I've read great things about them. And I've got some strawberries in some earth boxes. This is not necessarily my favorite setup. I think strawberries need a lot more room than this, so I'll figure out something to put in them in the future. And this was supposed to be an herb bed. I heavily overpopulated it, so most of it's salvia flowers now and mint, but there's some rosemary hiding back here, blue spice basil, borage for my bees. I got a lime tree, and then we added these 2 tubs this year. These are really fun. These are called stock tanks or round in tanks, and we got these at a local-ish hardware store. We had to hunt around to find them, and we just put our greens in them this year so that they're easy to pick. You don't have to bend over. They're easy to work. We ordered a soil mixture from a local fertilizer yard to fill them with, and you can get the hang of planting in these over time. They're a little bit tricky compared to in-ground because the watering's a little different, but it's really not rocket science. They're not too hard to plant in, but spinach is not doing so great in these, but all the lettuce is okay. They need some fertilizer. They need some nitrogen. In this bed I built 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and it's over concrete, as you can see, which my idea with that was to keep the Bermuda grass out of it. Same thing with this, but wouldn't you know it, I built it right up over this crack in the concrete, and Bermuda grass grew right up into it. So, what are you going to do? And you can, I know it's hard to see, but there's Bermuda grass in here too with all my squash. But I've got a few varieties of squash in here this year. You can see it's really going well. These squash are just doing awesome. So, I mean, just the plants are real healthy. So I have each of these plantings represents 2 plants. I plant 3 seeds per hill, and then I thin to the 2 strongest plants. So this is actually 8 plants. And this one is a hybrid. I saved seeds from my favorite variety last year, and I just got the first fruit off it, and it turned out to be a cross between Dark Star, which is my favorite zucchini, and Costata Romanesco, which I grew next to it last year. So it got cross-pollinated, so we'll see how those are. And the other one in that stand is another Dark Star. And I'm trying 3 new squash varieties this year, new to me. This one is a patty pan squash. Get in here and show you a fruit. Kind of see that there. And it's called Sunburst. It's a hybrid from Johnny Selected Seeds. They have that green blossom end on them. These are beautiful, and they're getting a little more flavorful. At first they were kind of bland, but as the weather's heating up, they're getting a little better. This one, Zephyr, is just a rock star. And you can see those also have a green blossom end on them. And they're considered a straight neck yellow squash. But these things are just pumping squash out. I can't keep up with them. And I have just 2 of these plants. And I've got so much squash that, like, my neighbor's going to hate me soon because I'm going to be pawning them off on them. And then my other variety is Tempest. It's a crookneck yellow squash. And it's putting out more fruit than the Zephyr. I mean, I've picked 3 or 4 off each of these plants every day for the last week. I could open a farm stand in front of my house with these things. A very small farm stand, but I mean, it's way more squash than I know what to do with. So some of them are going to become chicken food, and I don't know. If you have any suggestions of what to do with way too many squash, please tell me, because I'm running out of ideas. I've got some beans growing on this trellis behind them. They're getting a little overcrowded by the They're very overcrowded by the squash plants, and these hybrid squash plants have grown much more vigorously than these open pollinated ones on the end here. So, new experiment for me. I've done this in the past with pretty good success, but it's a little harder with these bigger squash plants. They're quite vigorous. But you can see over here where I have my open pollinated ones, it's not quite as competing as much, and I've got some Asian cucumber here. This is a Chinese cucumber. A few plants of those there. Of course, I've got my beehive right here, and they're doing work. And I think that's why I'm getting such excellent production on these plants, is the bees are just doing work on these flowers, pollinating everything. So it's just crazy. I've never had this kind of production with squash. And then I've got my corn over here, and I'm toying with the idea of putting some more beans in here and doing like what's called a 3 sisters bed, where in between your corn you put some green beans, pole beans, and you let them vine up the corn stalks, and then maybe plant a pumpkin. Over here I have a nice heirloom pumpkin seed that I've been thinking about planting, and then the pumpkin just kind of vines through the whole bottom of the bed, shades the ground and whatnot, and your beans grow up your corn stalks, and then you get, 3 varieties of vegetable out of one bed, which is nice. So that's the basic garden overview for this year. Hope you enjoy it. If you got questions or comments, please like, subscribe, comment, and post. All right, take care.